You're still watching ACFIM Talks. Welcome back from a break. Before we went for a break, we were trying to look at the statistics presented by World Bank, disputing the government of Uganda's initial position that Uganda was into a middle income status. And with me, I have Moses Mlondo, who is an economist, and I also have Moses Mushimo, who's also an economist and also a lawyer, weighing in on the matter. And let me come to you, Moses Mlondo, especially the fact that both of you tend to agree that indeed we are not yet into middle income status. I know Tanzania, I think around 2020 or 2021 was declared to be a middle income country. So is Kenya in the region. And help me understand, and for someone who's just trying to make sense of this, what it means to be part of middle income status, what ideally should be done? What should government do to actually take us to middle income status, and how can we get there?
Okay, that's a very good question. But before I answer it, because even if we achieved middle income status, it would not necessarily mean that majority of the citizens have had their economic welfare improved. I can give you examples of countries that actually have achieved middle income status. You remember those figures on the 10 African countries that have per capita income that is over 15,000.
Yes.
One of those countries is Nigeria. Nigeria is a very big economy on the African continent, second after Egypt currently. But the number of citizens in Nigeria that are below poverty line is 46%. I actually picked this from a policy paper that was recently released by the National Planning Authority. And their argument was that we should not be so much obsessed with achieving middle income status. Our focus should be on coming up with measures that can empower majority citizens. Because you see, the rate of inequality in Uganda is so high. There is a World Bank report that indicates that 70% of our economic growth is actually in Greater Kampala. Here, Kampala and the neighboring districts. 70%. I attended a meeting of Indians where it was an activity of their association where they were boasting that they are responsible, that they own 65% of Uganda's economy. That is what they say. They were boasting that, we have invested a lot in this economy, about 65%. And when you look at the factories that are in this country, the big companies in this company, they are owned by Indians, by Chinese. So actually, World Bank is very right that our focus should not be on GDP, but the wealth of the citizens of the country. That's where, because they know World Bank knows that the bulk of our economy is not in our hands. It is in the hands of Chinese. It is in the hands of Indians. Even when you look at the construction companies, when you look at the major infrastructure projects, the companies that are given contracts are foreign companies, and they keep repatriating the money. So our focus as a country, even as we discuss the interventions that government needs to undertake to obtain middle income status, our focus as a country should be to come up with measures that would reduce income inequality. Because like I have told you, our economic growth, the president is proud about. 70% of it is here in Greater Kampala. There are countries, apart from Nigeria, which I talked about, there are many other countries like Swaziland, like South Africa, like Zambia, that have obtained middle income status with a per capita income that is over 10,000. but with a very high rate of a big number of citizens that are below poverty line. For Swaziland, citizens that are below poverty line, 63%. Zambia, 63%. So there are countries like USA that are very rich. They have a high per capita income, a high GDP, but 80% of the wealth of USA, I mean 8% of the people of USA own 90% of their economy. The best model actually, the best countries are the Scandinavian countries where the income inequalities are very low. So going to the question of what we need to do to obtain middle income status. Of course, the most important thing that we need to do is to invest in the productive sectors of the economy, which our government is yet to do. The MDP3 is very clear. These sectors were prioritized, and government was supposed, the national budget is supposed to allocate more resources to those sectors of agriculture, of manufacturing, of tourism, of ICT. But when you look at our national budget, which was recently read, those sectors continue to get meager resources. So until we get our priorities right, of course, we shall not obtain a speedy economic growth that we would desire as a country. The other thing, all countries that have registered exponential growth, most of these countries, when you look at China, those Asian tigers, they have state-owned enterprises that do business, that create jobs. When you look at the companies here that are constructing our roads, these are state-owned Chinese companies, and they are all over the world. Gaddafi, before he died, he had started using that same investing in different countries. Libyan state-owned companies. I highly believe for an economy that is an infant economy like ours, you cannot surrender it to entirely to the private sector. That is what we need to do as a country. You see, our interest rates are very high, partly because we do not have a solid state-owned commercial bank. If we had the solid commercial banks, I'm telling you, we would not be having those high interest rates. And because of that, our companies cannot compete with companies of other countries where they get credit at very low interest rates, as low as 2-3%, when our interest rates are at 18%. So as a country, our country is a very rich country, by the way. There is no any country on the African country that is naturally endowed like our country. And if we got the right leadership and made the right decisions, we would be the richest African country. But when you look at our GDP and you compare with the GDPs of the richest African countries, we still have a long way. Even neighboring Kenya, their GDP is approaching $300 billion, but our GDP is still at $45 billion, which figure is also contested. So we still have a long way to go. As a country, our comparative advantage is in agriculture. For about 43% of East Africa's arable land is in Uganda, where you can grow crops successfully. We can be a global food basket if our government seriously invests in agriculture, invests in mechanization of our agriculture, in storage facilities, in boosting agricultural production. Because when you look at the bulk of our exports, they are agricultural products. So that is an area where we would get a lot of economic mileage. But our government is not investing enough in that sector. So as I conclude, our government will need, in fact, one of the necessary interventions for reducing the income inequalities we are talking about is for the government to seriously come up with state-owned enterprises so that we get our economy from the hands of the foreigners who keep repatriating our resources. The government revived the UDC, Uganda Development Corporation, as the investment arm of government, and there was a commitment to allocate it, capitalize it with $500 billion. That was a commitment of both the executive and parliament in around 2017, 2016. But up to now, that commitment has not been fulfilled. UDC is given a very small budget of about 30 billions, with which they cannot really do so much. And yet, if UDC is capitalized, we would be having UDC establishing factories in different parts of the country, which would create jobs for the citizens in those areas and greatly improve the economic welfare of Ugandans.
Thank you so much. Council Mushime, let me bring you in here. You may weigh in on that one on what should be done, but also why help us understand why at this point in time, and it's not the first time that we have statisticians from UBOS, from NPA, having statistics that are always contested. Should we then believe the very many reports that are put out to inform the country? Should we then believe that probably majority of the statistics that are put out to inform the country are highly politically motivated? Because if the president comes out with statistics informed by UBOS and then they are contested by the World Bank, but not just World Bank, but even the public within feels that these statistics are probably cooked, who should we then believe? Well, how can we run a country where the statistics that we are relying on are highly questionable? Is it an issue of politics trying to influence the economics?
Felix, it's very absurd that UBOS is setting such a dangerous precedence. Well, statistics has statistical compilations have assumptions, and there is always room for errors and instances where you even project, instances where you assume, and that is allowed in the statistical world. But when now politics start influencing statistical compilation, that is a problem. It is going to undermine planning. It is going to undermine other projections as a country that we intend to have. And this is very dangerous if you are going to plan for population whose demographics you do not know. If you are going to put out figures to in place the head of state, that is very, very dangerous. But in the statistical world, there are assumptions that are made. There is room for errors, and that we've provided. But now crossing the Rubicon, and now you start giving statistics that are politically motivated, that is very dangerous for the country. And I think it is the time, and I can tell you, if we subjected those figures to thorough scrutiny, a lot of things would change, even overnight. And that is very, very, very dangerous. These institutions, such as World Bank, on one hand, they build capacity for these institutions, and that we should give it credit. And when you disagree, and the realities on ground are different, then even the population you purport to be working for is going to doubt you. I can tell you that we have families in Uganda that spend a month without touching money. I can tell you that we have many people who are very poor, who cannot put food on table. And I think the good thing, Mr. Mlondo is a journalist, and they have been covering UBOS. I think it's high time to now sit on a round table and make these assumptions known to the public. The assumptions that were made, for example, in trying to project Uganda as having crossed into middle income. But as a population, we have to look at other indicators of human progress or human development. And like I said, that includes life expectancy, it includes how many women are dying giving birth, how many children die before they clock 5 years, how many people have access to water, electricity, who have skills that can enable them acquire a job. Those are the most important things, other than these statistical figures that leave a very chunk of population outside the statistics. In terms of what the government should do, one, and I think this is very fundamental, is to invest in human capital in terms of providing the right health infrastructure and quality of care, in terms of providing education that addresses societal community needs. We are talking about vocational institutions. And I can tell me, where are the vocational institutions in the parish development model? You will not see them. So let's invest in human capital. The other bit Moses touched it is investing in productive sectors of the economy. This includes agriculture. And you can see the percentage, for example, of the allocation that went to agriculture sector in the current budget. Very minimal. What percentage went to the health sector? I can tell you one of the reasons why people are falling into poverty is because they access health care and education expensively. People are selling their properties, people are selling goats, hens to pay school fees, to access medical care. And government is very adamant about these things. So let's invest in human capital. Let's invest in productive sectors of the economy. Let's reduce the inefficiencies and wastage in the government. Our friends and neighbors in Kenya have implemented what they have called devolution. Let's devolve resources to these local governments. I know there is corruption in local governments, in central government. But as citizenry, we shall do our part. But as government, let's these resources reach the people. I can tell you, and over the years, you'll see that the allocations going to local governments have been oscillating between 10 and 12% of the total budget. Before our budget was very low, we used to be in 40%. But in Kenya now, they are at 30, they are closing to 30% of the allocations going to county governments. So it is very important that we invest in productive sectors and invest in human capital. Let our people have the skills that will provide them jobs. Let them have access to capital. That is very, 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 very important. I can tell you that in Uganda, across East Africa, actually, it is Uganda that has a costly financial system where interest rates are very high. If you don't have collateral security, you will not get a loan. Even the programs that were put in place, like in Myoga, were very politically charged, where monies went to accounts, but they could not be accessed because we're in a political season. Now all these programs have been collapsed into parish development model that does not have the right staffing, that has not prioritized regions or districts according to their the resources available, but also to their niche. What works in Kampala cannot work in Karamoja, and that is very, very, very important. The parish development model was developed at the ministry. These are models that would have come from the communities, but now it is the other way around. So I am in doubt how they are going to work. And I think economists that are in these ministries, particularly Ministry of Finance and Planning, they should try to see how to devolve resources in the first place, but also how you can customize this model to fit the realities on the ground. And most importantly, provide resources, and resources. And these resources I must either be at a local government or aggregated in a pool. That's when they will be monitored. But when you disaggregate these resources, and I think these ministries will go on the ground, that is going to be a big problem. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you so much. I still have a couple of minutes for slotting one last question both of you as we wrap up, but you can still be part of this conversation. You can join us on our Twitter, on our Facebook, and also on our YouTube, and you can be able to probably read some of your comments. Moses Mulunga, let me come to you. You gave a very interesting statistics. You actually did say that between NDP 1 and NDP 2, our I don't know what you called it, the $600 to $750. That was the
capital income.
Yeah, per capita income has been oscillating between $600 and $750. I want you to use that same projection to help, as an economist, looking at how Uganda has been performing and is progressing. How long is it going to take Uganda to actually reach the middle income status?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Actually, the earlier target for our government to achieve middle income status was 2017. Their projection was 2017, and they failed to achieve it. When they failed to achieve it, they readjusted the target to 2020. And even then, they failed to achieve it. And but perhaps that's why maybe they have now resorted to economic engineering. At the current rate of growth, and when the government continues to put more resources in security, state house, public administration, if nothing changes, if there are no radical reforms, certainly, even in the next 5 years, actually, even World Bank said it, that Uganda is not even about to achieve middle income at our current rate of growth and prioritization. Even in the next 5 years, we cannot achieve. If we go by the current rate of growth, because like I told you, for 10 years, our per capita income was between $600 and $750. It means that every year our per capita income, the growth of our per capita income was not even reaching $100. So there is no way, even in the next 5 years, we can reach middle income set, going by the current rate. I can give you an example. Our president has been boasting about the roads that have been tarmacked, which the kilometers are about 5,000. For about 20 years, we constructed about 3,000 kilometers of roads tarmacked, and our government has been boasting about that. But within the same period of time, in Ethiopia, the number of kilometers of roads that they have tarmacked is over 30,000. So in as much as we are having some progress, we are moving at a snail's speed, at a very low speed. For us to be able to register exponential growth, we shall need some radical reforms. And sometimes it would necessitate maybe either change of government, like you saw in Tanzania when Magufuli came in and he implemented radical reforms and they reduced wastage in government, and the money they saved, actually they were able to fund their standard gauge railway on their own money. But for us here, we have been planning to construct a standard gauge railway and begging China. The last I knew, China was actually giving a condition of us attaching our oil revenue to the recovery of their money, and the government objected to it. So we are there struggling, trying to find where to get loans and construct our standard gauge railway. If we cannot have a change of government a new government to undertake those radical reforms, then it will take this government, the current government, to undertake those radical reforms, which they seem to have failed. Like when it comes to reducing wastage in government, for the last 5 years, they have been talking about downsizing government and rationalization of government and merging government entities. But they have just been talking about it, but they have failed to implement it. Even the money that they were planning to get to increase the salaries for most of the public servants who are poorly paid, their anticipation was that money would come from what would be saved from reducing wastage in government, which they have failed to do, and that's now they are in a crisis. Arts teachers are laid down their tools because government has not increased their salaries. Local government workers are threatening to strike, and so many other public servants are extremely paid poor. By the way, if you want to improve the economic welfare of citizens, the issue of ensuring that citizens are paid well, relatively well, would be one of the basic necessities that government would have to undertake if you want to improve the economic welfare of citizens. Our workers are extremely paid poorly. Workers, even in private companies, the situation is very worse. We don't have minimum wage. So that's where we are. And that's why I'm telling you, at the current rate and without some radical reforms, even in the next 10 years, we may not achieve the middle income status. Thank you.
Okay. All right. There you have it. Thank you so much, Moses. It's come the top of the hour. Just 1 minute to allow Council Mushime to give us your parting shots as we wrap it up.
Thank you, Felix. I think for me, my parting shot is for as a country, we need to shift from these statistical measurements that do not capture the economy and economic activities that Ugandans are engaged in. Like I said, we should focus on the quality of the population in terms of access to energy, affordable energy, access to affordable and quality health care, access to education, and also making sure that the government is investing in productive sectors, in value addition, in reducing wastage, devolving resources to the lowest units of government, and most importantly, having a citizenry that will hold these public leaders accountable. That is very, very important. And like Moses has shared, I think countries that have taken a leap forward are countries that have implemented radical reforms that are nationalistic in nature. And that is very, very important. The NLM government has given the base, but to propel this country to another level, it needs another economic model that takes everyone at a center stage. It is one thing to talk about bringing all the people into the monetary economy, but it is the other to see that actually these people are receiving cash, they are working, and their quality of life is improving. Thank you, Felix.
Okay, let's continue with this conversation on our social media platforms. We've come to the tail end of it. We were discussing Uganda's middle income status. Are we there or not? And with me, I had Moses Mulondo, who is the president of Uganda, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, and he's also an economist. And also with me, I had a counsel and an economist, Moses Mushime, who has over 15 years in public policy, design in global health, leadership, and civic engagement. With me, till next time, bye-bye, take care, stay blessed.